and welcome back to That Married Couple Podcast.
I'm Nava.
And I'm Kian, and welcome to Season 2, our new and improved Season 2, Episode 1 of Season 2. So happy to be back, so happy to be with you. And as you can see, we are now new and improved
In the studio.
in our very own studio, live in Technicolor.
So exciting. You'll never be able to get rid of us. You'll see us everywhere.
Exactly. Before, whilst you could only hear us, you'll now be forced to see us. And that also means that you're now able to see us on YouTube. You can see us potentially now through video on Spotify. So very excited for it. Very keen.
All the things. So if you are new to the podcast, we wanted to welcome you. Thank you so much for listening. In our episodes, we discuss all things relationships. And we know the importance of relationships for ourselves as individuals, but also the impact that they can have on society at large. So we wanted to create this podcast as a space where we could discuss things, delve deep into all of the nitty-gritty of relationships and see how we can make them successful and happy and healthy.
Yes, and as we said last season on our episodes, we discuss a way of doing things, not necessarily the right way or the only way.
Yes, we want you to think of us as your married besties talking love, life, and learning as we figure it out together. And as we always say, we want this to be an open space for anyone, regardless of background, where you can hopefully leave it with a better understanding of what you want to do going forward. And our goal isn't to provide the answer, but to explore many ways of doing things and learn alongside you and spark deeper conversations in your own lives and relationships.
Can I also just say how cool it is that we have these little cards? I'm seeing it now.
Welcome to the cards.
We are so professional. Look at us. All right. So in today's episode, let's get into it, shall we?
Yes, let's.
We are discussing how love is changing in today's world. And we're going to be unpacking the societal norms and the forces that influence our relationships.
Yes, and as always, we have everyone's favorite segment, Question Time, where we answer a question sent in by you guys. And today's question is a very juicy one. It is, how do you deal with jealousy?
And I know there's more.
But wait, there's more.
We have a brand new segment coming to you for the first time in Season 2, where TMC go into the wild, into the jungle.
Into the jungle of the people.
To ask the general public questions about the episode. So throughout different episodes this season, key questions from the podcast will be going to people in Sydney, essentially, and maybe elsewhere, and asking them what their thoughts are on key topics. So look forward to it.
Yes, very keen to show that to you.
All right, without further ado, shall we start where everything good starts? A fun game.
A fun game. Excellent. So this game is called Love It or Leave It. And obviously the topic is societal norms and how society is influencing our relationships, how relationships are changing and all of those kind of things. So we are going to choose whether we love
it
or leave
it.
Relationship trends and things like that. Okay. Question number 1 is shared phone locations. Love it or leave it? Okay. Love it.
I was waiting for like a 3, 2, 1. We're going straight into it. I'm going to actually say like a little bit of this though as well, because I feel like it's a great thing. And I think it shows like trust in your partner, and it's useful. Like it's been useful for me at times. It's been like, where's Nava? I hope she isn't dead. No, okay, she's over here. But obviously not in a controlling
Not being
way.
controlled. Where is he?
Exactly.
I actually only think we have shared locations because our friends set it up. Like we have a group of friends who all have each other's location, and that's why we have each other's location rather than for ourselves. But it's useful for safety as well, especially like if we're, for example, if I'm studying far away late at night and coming back on public transport, or Kian's catching a plane and I'm like, is he dead? Where is he?
Yeah, well, it's the classic thing where like your partner doesn't respond for like maybe 5 minutes, and we're also both really responsive.
Yeah.
So I feel like whenever one of us doesn't respond, I'm always like, that's it.
Yeah, yesterday I thought Kian was dead. But he's not. He's here. Excellent.
What a shame.
All right. Question 2, relationship check-ins.
Love it.
Excellent.
Leave it?
No. No. I love it.
I was literally about to say, who's going to say leave it? I looked at my wife apparently is leaving it. I think we need to have relationship check-in.
And we do. But actually at the beginning, like before we were married, I was a big leave it. I was like, oh my gosh, who needs to have relationship check-ins? Get over yourself. Like stop making everything so psychology based. Like just live your life. I was like, this is stupid and unnecessary. And then we tried it because we saw another couple that did it. And I think it's excellent. We call our check-ins monkey business.
Monkey business.
Where we just discuss all things for the week, finances, our general happiness, plans, all of that stuff. So love it. Definitely not leave it.
Yes, agreed. Shall we go to the next one?
Yes, okay.
Drum roll.
Drum roll. Boom, 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 boom. Public displays of affection, PDA.
3, 2, 1. I'm saying love. You're saying leave.
I'm saying leave with a little bit of love.
Uh-huh.
See, they're both a little bit of both. I struggle with PDA. Also viewing others, but mainly like for us, I'm like, ooh, because physical touch isn't my love language.
It's because she's disgusted by me.
No.
She just can't stand. She just thinks I'm hideous.
I'm okay with it in person. I don't crave it the same way you do.
Yeah.
But in public, I'm like let's just be friends, dude. But sometimes actually more recently, I found it really cute when other people do it in public if it's not taken to the extreme. I think with all of these balance and it's not that deep. You can show
you don't need to make out in public. But I think as well, like in our relationship, like we know that like physical touch is one of my love languages. And so because of that, public displays of affection are quite like special to me in balance. And it can be simple as well. Like PDA doesn't have to be making out, with that much tongue, but it can just be like holding your arm and I think things like that, shoulder on the arms and things like that. So I guess to your point as well, there is balance to how far you go. All right, final, we have 2 more to go.
Being friends with your ex.
Oh, this is such a big one.
Okay, there's a caveat to my answer, but let's go. Ready?
3, 2, 1. Yeah, okay, we both said leave it.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, okay, great. Let's talk about it.
I think that it depends. Like if you're just investigating each other and you're not being like in a relationship, he's my boyfriend, she's my girlfriend, like that kind of thing. And you're just becoming friends with someone and then you realize, okay, we're not really right for each other. That's maybe okay.
Yeah.
But when you're like in a relationship, I just feel like it's a little bit dodge.
I totally agree. I think that's a perfect sort of summary of it. I think particularly once it just creates a room for issues that I feel like why would you welcome into your relationship? And it comes later. We'll talk on this idea of jealousy.
It's almost like it's our question for today.
Oh my God. It's like this whole thing is connected. That's crazy. It's like we've planned everything out perfectly. So I think we will talk about it a little bit more later, but I also think it brings in unwanted challenges into your relationship. So that's my feeling.
Okay. I think this is a juicy one. Getting the ick. 3, 2, 1.
Leave it.
Okay, this is a bit.
Sorry. I think I'm leave it because Nav has spoken to me about this before, and so I'm going to let her take the floor with her ick of the ick.
Yes,
take it away.
The ick gives me the ick. Obviously, it's a big thing on social media. Oh my God, he gave me the ick. Blah blah blah. And there's this really amazing psychologist who's done like a breakdown of this. But it's unnecessary. Like people do silly, weird things all the time. And are you really going to make such a big deal of like someone tripping over and be like, I can't see them the same way? No, get over yourself. Love the other person. It's not that deep. It's not that big of a deal. Just love them. And people do weird things. Does everyone need to be like robots? Like, I must be perfect. Otherwise they're going to get the ick. No.
Yeah, exactly. You have this whole thing I know as well. Like you don't love the whole nonchalant sort of vibe.
I hate nonchalance. It's the worst.
We need like the boom sound effect for that. Yeah, and I think there's a certain degree as well, like just being comfortable in your relationship. And if you are comfortable in your relationship, you shouldn't have to worry about giving your partner the ick. If that's your vibe, let it be your vibe. Yeah. All right, I'm aware that we are running out of. We should probably speed.
Okay, the last one is going to be quick, and it's kind of random. Morning kisses before brushing your teeth. 3, 2, 1.
I love it. You leave it.
Oh.
You leave it?
No, I think it's gross.
I think it's like one of those things that is gross and it shows how much you love your partner that you're like, look, I know that I'm not at my best, but I still love you. Here's my disgusting morning breath.
Okay, fair enough. On our honeymoon, every morning I would wake up early, brush my teeth and then come back into bed. Sometimes I still do that, like if I'm with the intention of kissing you. Otherwise, I'll just do...
Yeah, but like even that's fine, I think. Like the morning peck with the, like you did, great example over there. I think that's fine. I think it's part of the fun. So that's why I love it.
Awesome. That's love it or leave it for you. Hope you enjoyed. Hope that sparked some joy and some maybe conversations for you to have.
Exactly. If there was anything that we loved that you would have left or anything that we left that you love, please let us know.
Yes. Chuck it down
Perfect.
in the comments.
All right. So now that we've warmed up with a fun little game and we've created heaps of discourse and there's a million comments agreeing with everything that we said, let's get into the topic of the podcast, which is about, as we said before, how society influences relationships. So to sort of set the scene and get, I think, early discussions started, one of the things we wanted to do is something that we all know and love and find really engaging, and that is statistics.
Yes.
Right? This is the kind of quality content that you are listening in for. Stats, data, numbers. Nava, take it away with the stats.
Okay, so just to set the scene before I get into statistics, obviously relationships are changing a lot in today's world. We've seen massive changes in society, in our values, what we find important, progression of technology. All of these things influences our relationships. So I have some statistics. One first thing is where couples are meeting is changing, as we know, and we're actually, we're going to do an episode on this. But according to the Australian Study of Health and Relationships, in the early 2000s, most couples met through friends, work, or a night out. But now, more than half of 20 to 39-year-olds in Australia said they met their most recent partner online. It's not a shocker, actually, but that helps set the scene a bit. Do you want to give us our next stat?
Of course. The next stat that we have is that people are getting married less and later. So according to the Australian Bureau of Statistics, for people aged over 16, the marriage rate in Australia has dropped 22% over the last 20 years, from 7.1 marriages per 1,000 people in 2004 to 5.1 per 1,000 in 2024. And it's crazy that 2004 was 20 years ago. That's a real...
It's actually 21 years ago. That's crazy.
Crazy.
Anyway.
All right. And the other bit is that we are, like we said before, also getting married later in life. So the median marriage age has increased from 31.5 for males and 29.2 for females in 2004 to 32.8 for males and 31.2 for females in 2024. So about sort of 1.5 to 2 year increase in the median age of marriage.
Yes. The next thing is what matters in Australian relationships today. And obviously, we know we have listeners from all over the world. Shout out to our Country Facts segment in season 1. But we just focus on Australia because this is where we live. But obviously, there'll probably be similar stats for the whole world, I would say. Anyway, what matters most for Australians in relationships today is, this is according to Relationships Australia, fun and enjoyment is the number one most important thing for Australians in relationships, with 84.8% of people saying it was the strongest predictor of relationship satisfaction.
So interesting.
I think that's probably very different to what it was previously, like in the past, let's say 50 years ago. I don't know if fun and enjoyment was the biggest thing.
Well, I think that's really interesting, the fun and enjoyment piece. Like, I wonder, what are your thoughts on that being the most important thing in a relationship? Do you agree with that?
I think it's an important thing. And I think probably in the past, people got into relationships for things like security or to raise a family or, I don't know, because of cultural norms. But fun and enjoyment, I think, is definitely an important thing. But I think if that takes the most important place in order of priorities in your relationships, I wonder whether that could lead to moving on to a new relationship and not actually doing the work to make your relationship work and make it fun and enjoyable. Because if it's not surface level fun and enjoyable, you're like, all right, I'm done. Bye.
I think that's perfect, yeah. Because I think, obviously, to a base level, like, relationships should have a fun. You shouldn't be like,
yeah.
But relationships also have ebbs and flows. And I think to that exact point, like, there's times where you have to work on it. And if it's like, oh, well, this isn't fun anymore, see ya, you're out. You're never going to have those deeper relationships.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. So we're talking about how society influences relationships and the kind of societal norms that are having an impact on our close relationships today. And I have a hot take about one of the biggest things that has changed the way we view relationships. I guess over time this has developed, but I think we have had a massive, massive rise of individualism. So much in the last, I don't actually know, but since I've been paying attention, so like maybe the last 10 years, we've had a massive rise in individualism. Things like self-care, which are very, very valuable and important things, and like taking care of your mental health, 100% on board with that. But all of those things, also probably materialism has a bit to do with it, capitalism, wanting to like increase your wealth and things. But I think we have become more individualistic as a society. And so relationships aren't as valued anymore. It's more about what does it do for me rather than seeing the relationship in the bigger picture, or how can I be selfless for the other person.
Well, and I think there's a really interesting point there as well, because obviously we've seen, like, in general, when we speak about like societal norms in relationships and like how society has changed relationships, how like the shift in like, let's say 50 years, right? It's like, so technically it's like 70 years if I go to 1950, but like, say like in the 1950s, what relationships were, what marriage was, what the purpose of it was, has changed so massively. Even in, like, we looked at the stats over the last 20 years, like even from this millennia, it's shifted rapidly, even in like the last 5-10 years. But I think having a lens to be aware of, well, these are the current forces or challenges that are coming into it, I think puts us in a really strong position. Can
you give me some examples of like what the changes have been from, say, the 1950s to now? Is it related to individualism?
I think individualism, like given that we're speaking about it right now, I think that's a really potent one. But even like shifting gender roles, for example, like I think if you look at, say, the 1950s, not that I was around in the 1950s.
Do you remember back in the day?
What I assume happened in the 1950s was, I feel like relationships were much more dependent on like the situations of, say, like the workforce. So like, actually I think I have some stats here. Yeah, so here we go. Here's something I read earlier. So in the mid-1960s, women made up about 30% of Australia's paid workforce. And today it's about 50%, which is what you'd assume. And I think with that, it meant that relationships were a lot of the time seen much more as this thing of security, particularly for women due to necessity, that they weren't given the positions and the opportunities to be able to provide for themselves. And so I think a lot of the times it meant that a relationship was something that you needed for security. And because of that, what you looked for was potentially different to what you have now. Women now have so much more agency and they've been like empowerment, and they're able to do things for themselves. They don't need a man to look after them. And that's a good thing, obviously. I think with that as well, though, it's shifted some of those norms behind maybe what expectations are from a relationship and what people are looking for. And I think maybe at times, I think it's even caused, without being fully aware of it, maybe some tension on either side, where I think you're seeing in today's society more and more men that seem frustrated with the system, and they're a bit like, well, like why can't I do this, or why can't I do that? Or even like they see a relationship as a transactional thing, which is like, if I get X amount of money, therefore I will have a relationship. If I do X, I will receive Y. And maybe that comes from that kind of more outdated notion in the past, where it was a bit more like, once you've achieved a certain thing, you
automatically get a wife because a woman needs
you, exactly. And now they don't, and that's a good thing. But I think it also means that it's something that we have to be aware of in how we are approaching these, across what women want, but then also what men should like also be expecting. Because it's no longer just enough, I think, to just have like a job or have money. You've got to be offering more than that. And that's a good thing. It's making us better people.
What people are looking for isn't just that security anymore, because every individual can have that for themselves. And so it's more about maybe that fun that it talked about before, or that personal connection, or what emotionally can we do for each other. So I think also in this discussion on societies changing and the norms of society, there are a lot of positive things and there are a lot of things to be conscious of. We're not like being mean to society and being like, it's all bad, because it's definitely not. There's been so much progress, which is so useful. But I think it's just really useful to consider and analyze the society we live in and the forces that are affecting us, so that we can be conscious of what they're doing to us and to our relationships.
Are you saying that we live in a society now?
We live in a society.
So going back to individualism in relationships, I know that's something that you're quite interested in. What are some of your other thoughts that you had with that?
Yeah, I feel like because we have become more about me, how can I progress? What can I do for myself? If I have a relationship, like, sure, it's useful, like, to make me feel good about myself. But if it doesn't make me feel super good every single second of every single day, I don't want it anymore. I feel like that kind of thing has led to us shopping around more, which, again, to an extent is a good thing, I think. Like, we shouldn't just take the first person who says I love you, even though they're actually really bad to you, obviously. But I think we shop around more. We have this idea of like try before you buy. We have more short-term relationships, and we see relationships in general as more transient rather than contextualizing it within society and seeing the impact and the positive impact that your relationship can have on the people around you and on society as a whole. Like, I think we think our relationship, it's for me. I want to feel good in my relationship. Rather than, yes, that, but also how can we use our relationship to positively affect the people around us? How can our relationship start this family that then has a positive impact on a broader circle, and that impacts more and more and more people?
And you guys are really positively impacted by us. So like
hopefully
you're sitting there right now being like, wow, my life is so positively impacted by this podcast. And that's the kind of thing that society is not really doing.
But no, I think that we do need to see family and relationships more as this building block for society. And as we've become more individualistic, it's easy to just see it as like a transient thing if it makes me feel good in the moment. It should make you feel good, but hopefully it does more than that. That's kind of my hot take on individualism and the role of relationships in society.
I think that's such a great point. And obviously there's so much that stems out of that as well. And there's so many different avenues that we could take that down with. I think also like in terms of we've seen things that have resulted in an increase of individualism in relationships as well with, like say COVID, for example, was a really big thing that meant that people were more isolated. We spoke about it before, a lot more people meeting on things like dating apps and meeting online. And in general from society, this is a whole separate podcast we could talk about. That is like in general, society's become more isolated. And this is obviously part of that point of how society is then being impacted with our relationships. And we're seeing as people are less open to maybe helping others, which we're a lot more independent now than we ever have been.
Also because of the rise of technology, we don't need other people to do things for us. Like, I don't need you to drive me to the airport. I can get an Uber, all of these kind of things. I think do influence it.
And so in that society, when we don't need other people to do things for us, it also results in us being very internally focused because it's the way that society is being built. And so I also think there's a lot of like unconscious stuff as well that then comes into our relationships because of the way that we're interacting with the world in general. That means that we are so, I guess, solely focused on what is in this for me, because so much of our other world, our other interactions in the world are focused on that lens. So I think another thing that we're seeing in terms of this change as well, we spoke about like the rise of tech and these other things. Also in general, to use like I want to say a boomer word, but like it's the media, it's that damn phone. I think it has changed a lot of what we're expecting in relationships as well. There's so many avenues we could speak about, whether it's say through like television and movies and what they're showing a relationship to be, all the way to social media and what that looks like. And things like you've got comparison that you get with social media, same with media, because it's kind of projecting on us a certain way that this is what your relationship should look like. And there's a lot of issues there.
Yeah, I feel like even with the rise of social media and TikTok and these maybe have spoken about this last season briefly, but we're looking at very short clips. And I'm like, next, right? And so I feel like maybe does that influence our relationships? A, when we first meet someone, we make a snap judgment. But B, we're happy to move on rather than stay and do the work, maybe?
Yeah. Well, I guess this feels so like philosophical, but like in an instant gratification like world where everything is like here, like you need to buy my interest in 2 seconds. I guess maybe is that fitting into our relationships as well, if it's like love it or leave it. And obviously to use one of our terms. But like obviously we can talk about like dating apps and stuff as well, which will come in a later episode. But similar sort of thing, which is love it or leave it. You're making snap judgments of, does this person gratify me right now from this very base interaction with them? And therefore, is it worth me putting in the effort or not? And it's such a snap judgment. And I think because of that, then we're maybe missing a lot of the joy and fruitfulness that comes from actually fully understanding somebody and not writing them off at the very beginning. Even your bit on like the ick and stuff as well. I think there are all these things now that give reasons as to why it's like, stop here. Like, and there's so many reasons to jump out of relationships now. I think it's another example of that sort of quick judgment. It's I haven't been satisfied, therefore it's over.
Yeah. And I think a slight thing on this is I totally agree with you.
Thank you.
We're not saying that you should stay in a relationship that's bad for you, I don't think. Like, I wouldn't stay in a horrible relationship, but I think maybe we have become less willing to do the work when things aren't in the honeymoon phase kind of thing. Like, because with our relationship, I always feel like it's so loving and fun and all of those things. Yeah. But also it does take conscious effort to make it that good.
Of course.
And so maybe as a society, because of this instant gratification, next attitude, we're less willing to actually make the effort to make it work.
I think as well, like broadening it across media in general, I think we're also seeing like depictions of what the media depicts like a good relationship to be and like an ideal person and like the key qualities that you should look for. And I think it's so interesting how warped it's become, particularly like recently. We've seen the rise of like this serial killer vibe of like, if you're a serial killer but he's hot, like this is my ideal man because he's protective. And like, and again, we'll talk about jealousy later, but like that jealousy is like a sexy thing. And it's like, like I love it because he's like, yeah, like he just killed that person because they looked at me wrong. Like, oh, I wish my boyfriend would do that. And like, clearly that's not a healthy thing. And I think we kind of know that, but when it's kind of what we're consistently seeing, like to talk to like our good friend Penn Badgley in you. Penn, I know you're listening. And like, again, something that Penn Badgley himself spoke about how weird it was for the reaction of it and how against he was for people being like, oh my God, like I wish Joe Goldberg was like, and it's like, no, that's not the case that we're trying to make here. But consistently right now we're seeing whether it's like what we are deeming as this is what a valuable relationship is. And it's, of course, and maybe because it's not as sexy, it's not the putting in the hard work. It's the semi-irrational, controlling, like there's these key,
like
I'm
passionate, get together, break up, the chase, jealousy, all of these things.
Yeah. And it comes into this idea of like, and we've spoken about this before, like passion and what passion is. And that like if your relationship isn't passionate, if it isn't fiery, and if you don't make up and break up, then it isn't real. And that's, in my experience, that's just not the case. Like you can have a real fruitful relationship that has passion in it through how good your relationship is.
Yeah, I think you should be passionate about making your relationship healthy and consistent rather than passionate meaning love, break up.
Those monkey business meetings, do they get steamy.
But
nothing
also
more passionate than agreeing on where to send your next group of finances and what to invest in. Give me some more dividends, baby.
But also just a brief comment on the media in terms of like film and TV that we watch, books that we read. And I think everyone knows this. Like I know it, but I'm still always influenced by what we watch and what we consume. Like they say you are what you eat, but like you are what you watch. You are what you read. You are what you scroll. And obviously these industries are about being dramatic and getting audience retention. So they're going to show the craziest, outlandish relationships because you're like, oh, then what happened?
Yeah.
But it's so easy. And I think I'm even a victim of this sometimes, to get dragged into that is what a relationship should look like. And I don't think we have enough content out there maybe of just like the everyday getting to know each other, making our relationship consistent because it's easier to scroll on. It's not as engaging. But that's what we should actually be striving towards, I think.
And I think the thing that's really essentially like insidious with this and something we have to be really conscious of is the fact that if you're not, like you can see it and you can be like, yeah, of course that's not a good relationship. But if you don't talk about it, if you're not aware of it, I think unconsciously it can just sort of shift your opinion. And I would assume you might see a behavior that maybe is a bit of a red flag, but maybe it reminds you of a particular character that you've seen that you've like, been
built a connection.
Exactly. Or is this like, do we start to see negative behaviors in relationships that because of so much of our media showing those negative behaviors as potential positive things, that it also is then influencing the way that we are able to make judgments of relationships or be able to sort of put a line of actually that's not okay. That's not an okay thing to do. So I think there's lots of that shifts as well. That's really interesting of being aware of how that's changing. I think one other thing I'm interested in, when I was speaking through the idea of like how society is framing these kind of ideal characters and in my brain, I was thinking of a lot of the men. I was like, it's this like controlling, this jealousy type. I'd be interested to see in your perspective, how do you think the media is currently shaping the ideal woman in a relationship?
The ideal woman in a relationship, that's really interesting. Because I guess as a woman, I focus more on the men.
What do you mean? There's only one man in your life that you're focused on. He's right here.
I don't really know. I think the main thing is just looks, honestly.
Yeah.
I can't think of like a deeper thing that they portray consistently about women beyond their looks.
Well, and isn't that really interesting, right?
Yeah.
Because I was trying to think in my brain, I was like, well, okay, and then what are they doing? And I'm trying to...
Like
There's
they
a lot of-
sometimes have cute little jobs or they have like a cute little passion project, but I don't think they ever portray, I mean, obviously they do sometimes, but as a whole, I do think that looks is the biggest thing that is perpetuated about women in our media.
Yeah, and like even
I mean,
like,
it's not crazy, but it's crazy to actually think it's real. Like everyone always says it, but I can't think of another thing. Amazing. So that is our discussion on the role of society and how it influences our relationships. I think there's so much more to be said, so many more conversations to be had. And hopefully this has just like sparked a little bit of interest for you to have your own conversations. We'd love to hear about your thoughts in the comments, wherever, so that we can continue this discussion.
And I think that's the main purpose of this conversation as well. It's similar to what we sort of spoke about in like just before. But it's one thing to be like aware of these things and like, or be unaware of them. But I think the hope is that through discussing these, through being conscious of them in our own relationships, for us being aware of, and then also for everyone, the more that we speak about these things, the more that we have that open sort of dialogue and discourse, the more aware we are going to be when certain things that we maybe were unaware of start to pop up in our relationships. So anything else, this obviously, like Nava said, there's so much that we could discuss here, but anything else that's worth discussing, we're also really keen. What are some of the other things in society that you've noticed that are impacting our relationships? And maybe we could do a whole nother episode on it.
Yeah, what are some of the norms that you think are positive or negative, or the trends, the changes? We want to hear it. We absolutely do. Okay. I think I'll hand over to you, Kian, for our brand new segment.
Yes, so exciting. We've been teasing it. We have a brand new segment for season 2. And look, like being honest, you can see around us, we've had a little bit of a budget increase. And so with that, we've been able to secure 2 of our very own roaming reporters.
It's crazy. Oh my gosh.
So we're
so excited for you to meet them.
So excited. We're going to cross them right now. They are, I'm just hearing. Yes. Okay. They're live with us in the field. And must I say, gosh, are they good looking reporters, Nava?
Wow.
Far out. All right. We'll go over to you guys. Thank you, Kian. And before we begin, I must say that you two are looking absolutely ravishing yourselves. Nava, where are we today?
We are currently at windy Manly Beach in Sydney, Australia, where we're about to ask the general public questions about today's topic. Our first question is, in the past, marriage was seen as the ultimate goal for relationships. Do you think marriage is still the ultimate goal today, or does it not matter at all?
We have a different opinion
Yeah?
with my partner. Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And I don't think it's the ultimate goal for a lot of people. It still matters for a lot of people, but for maybe other reasons than what it did before.
Well, I think marriage is not like something that should, has to happen.
Yeah?
As long as you have a loving and caring relationship. Yeah?
I think it's still important for me personally, but I don't think it's a goal anymore.
It's not matter at all. At the moment you're happy, I think it's quite a good achievement. There's a lot of people that married and they are not happy with their marriage, just divorced.
I still think it matters.
I still think it matters because it should be the goal of a main relationship.
In my country, getting married is the ultimate goal for a woman, a young woman. But I think these days, for me, is ultimately something I would like to have, but it doesn't have to be a goal.
It doesn't seem to matter to others, but we still think it's important.
I think it's still a goal today, but it's not that important anymore than it was in the past.
I think it still matters. I see a lot of people getting married. It's a big industry.
Many relationships are just for fun for a few people, but I think marriage is like either is the big goal. Yeah.
When you say a goal, if you don't achieve a goal, that suggests that you are failing. But I don't think if you don't get married, you're failing at all, if you're happy.
So interesting hearing from those people, and amazing reporting as
Amazing
well, obviously.
reporting, for sure.
But really interesting, like across the different demographics, seeing the shift between how they chose to respond to that question.
Yeah, I feel like the younger people, which this was the shocking thing for me, the older people saying marriage was important, like I feel like that's just like expected. But the younger people also saying marriage was important, I found interesting because I thought the younger generation would be like, no, not for me, don't care. But it seemed like more that, I don't know, 30s
The
to
middle-aged sort of
I don't know,
people.
45,
Yeah.
that age, they were like, oh, not really.
Not sure.
And I wonder whether it's because they've experienced that age where they are supposed to get married and they maybe have and it hasn't worked, or they haven't, or they've seen lots of people try and get divorced and they're kind of like, well, it's not the most important thing. And whether the young people are just like green, I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's really good insight. So yeah, and even like there was that person who said like that marriage isn't a goal because if you haven't achieved it, it means that you failed. And I think that was a really healthy idea as well. Like, of course, just because you aren't married doesn't mean that you failed in life. But I think it was really interesting as well seeing, that kind of maybe learned experience of, because you said she wanted to get married, but it isn't a failure if I don't. And I think was really kind of stuck with me that.
Yeah. Okay, shall we go to the second question?
Do you want to go back to our handsome reporters?
Back to our reporters.
Our next question is social media helping or hurting relationships?
I guess a bit hurting relationship.
hurting?
Yeah.
Mostly hurting because it's become so much about showing others what you have and not being present. It feels like you constantly have to put it out there and for others to see instead of just being happy with you and that person.
Yeah, more time you spend on social media, I think, yes, less connection with your partner. But also there are good things as well.
Can help when you don't live in the same town.
I think it's hurting like relationships because it's putting like false like expectations of each other on there as well, and like I think that just like really impacts like how relationships are.
We are constantly being fed information on social media, and most of the time it's opinions, it's not facts. Then it's dangerous if I take that as the playbook, because relationship is just so diverse and complex.
I think people are posting things very quickly. We're in a relationship, really quickly, making it public knowledge, and then they're not in a relationship. And it seems to be everywhere. It's just, there's a lot of expectations.
It's just we're swamped with information these days. And yes, what do they say? You can't unring a bell.
Hurting relationships because you compare yourself to others, and I think that's not good for your own relationship.
I think we should consume it with a little bit more critical thinking.
You see the perfect relationship or couples on TikToks, but it's only in front of the camera and you think it's every day like this. So I think it's hurting too. Yeah.
Okay, so basically everyone was like, nope, social media is hurting our relationships. Which is very interesting. I thought maybe someone would say something else. I mean, they had nuance to it. And that lady who said we should be consuming it with critical thinking, 100% agree with you, Queen.
Yeah. I think like there was a person that said like long distance it can be useful for.
Yeah, true.
But like essentially it was almost all negative. And I think one of the things that it touched on was this idea that we were speaking about earlier with comparison. And we spoke about media as a whole, but particularly with social media, there's a lot to be said about comparison of social media and what this online couple does. And like comparing yourself to other couples on social media and the challenge that it has. And it can be couples, it can be individuals as well. I think you could see like, and you see on social media, like, there's this Instagram model that someone's looking at or this and the other. And you can imagine throughout your relationship, consciously or unconsciously, that could creep in and cause an issue for everyone.
Yeah, and I think social media has so many potential benefits, but because of how quickly people scroll past and how people need to do things with hooks, we actually lack and we lose all the nuance to any discussion that's had. And I wish we had like slow social media where you just had to watch the whole video and the video wasn't hooky and controversial, but it was just like, here's some content.
Social media.
Social media. I wish we had social media.
That's a really good insight.
Yeah. Shall we go to question 3?
Our final question from our reporters.
And our final question is, how would you describe your ideal relationship in 2025?
Well, I'm in mine.
Amazing.
You need to work hard. Yeah, you want to get married.
Probably just like trust, happiness, like all that, like respect.
Like loyalty. We're both putting an effort into the relationship. God-centered.
A relationship that is mutual. You're on the same page. You can have conversations about the future and also be present together and want to grow together and constantly be the best self and be the best you can be for the other person.
It's what we have now with my partner.
Just with someone you like and it's reciprocal.
I think at this point in my career and my life, a good relationship would be somebody who would give me a sense of peace, a sense of comfort, but not boredom. You know, I feel if you meet somebody who you are comfortable being with, but also gives you a sense of adventure.
Well, we've been married 37 years, so
Congratulations.
and we have 4 children, so that's our ideal relationship. Well, mine anyway.
Respect, love, and peace.
So really interesting seeing the different items that people chose to call out. It was interesting to me hearing about like trust and loyalty coming up a few times, and that being particularly for younger people. It seems like trust and loyalty is one of the first things consistently they're looking for in relationships. And like speculating, I wonder if that's like this shift we've seen where, like we're talking about before, are people not committing to relationships as much? And because of that, is that something that then you look for when you're seeking a partner?
That's so interesting. I hadn't thought about that. And it also goes very nicely into our question. But one thing that I took from it, which was different than what you took, was that I just loved how genuine people were with answering this question. I think on social media, we see so many things like, I'm looking for a man in finance, like all of
Five
that
Eyes.
stuff.
That's a reference to last season.
All of that
OGs.
kind of thing. Like we're seeing things as I want someone tall, someone rich, someone blah, 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 blah. But when you actually ask people genuinely, all they want is these kind of human connection and these virtues that they can develop together, which I thought was really lovely.
All right. So with that, let's go into a fan favorite segment.
It's question time with Nava and Kian. Yeah. I made that even worse that time.
Wow. Yeah.
I hope everyone was singing along, by the way. Badly.
It
Singing
sounded
along badly.
particularly bad. And
I know. I'm so proud
sure
of it.
you're all glad to have that blessing your eardrums again. It is question time. What is our question for this week,
Our
Nava?
question is, how do you deal with jealousy?
I thought I was going to say the question. Why do you always...
He's jealous of me for saying the question.
Was that such a great example?
Okay, amazing. I think this is a very juicy one and I have a lot to say on it. But before we get into the question, I have a sub-question.
Sub-question.
Just for you.
Questions and questions?
Questions and questions. My question is, have you ever felt jealous or uncomfortable with someone else around me to do with me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, I
Okay. Yes. And have you ever questioned my complete loyalty? though?
No.
That's a good, interesting thing.
How about you? For me?
Yes, I have felt jealous around other people. I think earlier on in our relationship, a lot more than now.
I got ugly. I got married. I got fat and ugly. There's no reason. There's no reason for her to be jealous anymore.
No, but I think earlier on you're trying to scope out what the other person's like, all of that kind of thing. And we've also communicated a lot about this and developed habits within our relationship that has helped with this. But I think at the very beginning, I'm going to be honest, I did question your complete loyalty at the very beginning because I didn't know 100% where we stood.
Like how far into our relationship was this?
Like a month.
Oh, okay.
Like
Very
we were
early
just
on.
getting to know each other.
Yeah, okay.
I was like, do we have a reason? Is he like this with everyone? Are we actually getting to know each other for like, are we dating? What's the vibe? At that point, yes. After that, no, never. No, not once.
Good. Nice.
So my thoughts on this are, obviously, this is a very interesting topic. And the more I've thought about it and the more I've spoken to people about it, my opinion has kind of changed. So I want to start by prefacing that, Kian, you are a very good egg.
Thanks.
And I thought, like, why are people being jealous? Like, there's no reason to. People give people reasons to be jealous. You don't, thank goodness, give me reason to be jealous. But people do. People do crazy stuff.
Like what? What are some of these things?
Like they flirt with other people just for fun to get the gratification from it, or they like fully have affairs, or they, people actually do this stuff. I know it's wild. But sometimes there is reason to be jealous.
Yeah, true.
But it's about, I think, how you deal with it as a couple and the maturity you show around having that conversation and making shifts where necessary. That really shows that loyalty and that trust that these people are talking about.
So what are some of your other thoughts then around that in terms of the main question, which is how to deal with jealousy?
Okay, how to deal with jealousy. I think something that we have done that has worked for us is we have spoken about it. If there's someone that makes us feel a little bit uncomfortable, I mean, at first in our relationship, I didn't want to be that crazy girlfriend who was jealous of people and brought stuff up. So I would
so much
hold
sass in that head, by the way. Look at those headphones.
So I would hold things in and not talk about it because I didn't want to seem insecure. And to an extent, bringing things up constantly, it makes it a bigger deal than it has to be.
Yeah.
But I think it's useful to sometimes sit down and have that deep conversation and be like, okay, how do we deal with this? What do we do? What is our approach to dealing with people who are maybe showing a bit of interest? Or even if you can't see that they're showing interest, I can. So how are we going to deal with it? And yeah, I don't know.
I have such a, so we both wrote down our responses individually to this question. And I have such a similar point on that, which is about, what I've said is in situations where things are happening that make you jealous, it's much better to come from a position of questioning rather than accusation. Because sometimes, and first and foremost, the person that is like the spouse, if you're the one that's jealous, your spouse, or the spouse, should ideally just agree first and foremost if someone's feeling jealous, right?
To validate that
to
emotion.
validate the emotion, because and this is why questioning I think helps that, because if you accuse someone of being like, you're doing this, instinctively as people we come on the defensive, which just further gives reason to be like, well, what are you hiding from me? Why aren't you being honest with me? And sometimes it can just be like, oh, well, that wasn't the case, and you're trying to protect that, but even though that's where you're coming from, it can be perceived as like the opposite, that you're trying to hide something, you're trying to get something from.
Understanding I'm sorry that you're feeling that way. I would never intend for you to feel that way.
Straight away,
and then explain, okay, this actually isn't happening.
Exactly. And what helps that though is questioning. So like from both sides. So coming at from accusatory way, probably not going to help. Coming at a sort of, hey, I just wanted to talk to you. I was noticing this. Is this something that you were aware of? Or is something like just doing it in a way that isn't super like attack mode, which is difficult, because like when you are feeling jealous, it's a horrible feeling, because you like, whether it's coming from insecurities or there's all these emotions that are bottled up with it. But that was one thing. And I think with that then as well, to that point of like defense, like to the bit I said before about obviously don't also like try and defend the situation. Go, no, like you've got this all wrong. That person would never do that. And start defending the other person that potentially.
Yeah, it's like, well, why are you defending them? Do you care about them more than you care about me? Right? What's going on?
And I was writing this and I was kind of like, oh yeah, that's good, because it's common sense when you think about it. But in the moment, sometimes that's where the brain maybe goes like, no, that wasn't what was happening. But I think trying to be really conscious of, this is kind of addressing jealousy more than maybe coming at it, but being aware of this is how my spouse is feeling and addressing them, and first and foremost, and then dealing with it later. And to the bit that you were talking on as well, I think sometimes with this idea of questioning, being overly eager to sort of point out bits can then lead to people seeing things they might not have seen before. And that can cause more issues. It might be like, well, why are you always hanging out with her or something? And maybe this person wasn't, and this is like theoretically, but maybe this person wasn't aware of anything. But now all of a sudden when they're with them, they see it, they see this person in like a different light maybe as well. And so there's this like interesting nuance as well between like, what's the balance of how you guys are keeping in check?
Well, I think for me personally and what we do, it's not a constant conversation. And now it's very rarely a conversation anyway. But if it's like every second day, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? It makes it a big thing. You're then looking at everyone and, oh, does she like me? Blah, 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 blah. But if it's like a conscious conversation every now and then where you go deep and you set those boundaries and you set those foundations, I find that that's more useful. And then on that, something that we have done, we talked about this very, very early on in our relationship, was that it's okay to sometimes be a little bit cold with someone to set a boundary. And like when you're married, obviously, I think it helps a lot because you can just say, me and my wife, or I can just be like, yeah, so my husband and I, and then it becomes obvious. And actually people lose interest. It's crazy. You can tell what people's intentions are because as soon as you're like, my husband, they're like not interested in talking to you anymore.
I love mentioning my wife. I use it all the time. People at work make fun of me for how often I mention Nava, and I go like, my wife. But you're totally right. At times, and you might not like even see anything happening. You see there's a real tonal shift to a lot of people.
And then you can say, oh, their intentions weren't quite just genuine friendship. They wanted something more.
And it's hard because you're so sexy. Everyone wants a piece.
What can I say?
She didn't compliment me back.
Oh, yes, you too. Very good looking. But In terms of it's okay to be a little bit icy to set a boundary, I feel like you would have interesting insights on that.
Well, yeah, and this is actually one of the things that I spoke about, which is from like conversations that I had with Nava early on in our relationship. I think one of the key learnings that I was able to understand is that it's not about your intention. When it comes to how you're interacting with other people, your intention isn't the most important thing. People's perceptions of that intention is very important. And I think this is what comes into this idea of jealousy, is that sometimes we can get caught up with, oh no, I wasn't doing anything. Like I didn't mean anything. Why are you accusing me of that? And it's like, sure, your intention was completely pure, but the way that could be perceived by others could be really sinister. And like there's something in like the Baha'i writings which speaks about to not make yourself the playthings of the ignorant. And I think in your relationships, being really aware of that at the end of the day, your intentions are not the most important thing when it comes to this idea of jealousy. How you are presenting your relationship to the world and showing that, now I don't even want to be in a situation where someone could think that the two of us are doing something, or like the two of them keep on like hanging out and they're really like touchy-feely or something. It's like, well, I just see them as a friend. Like that's all the relationship is.
It doesn't matter what you see them
but
as.
Anybody else could be looking around and going, oh, that's a bit, I wonder, maybe there's a, and not
and
to say that
the strength of your relationship can be broken.
Exactly. And not to say that you live your life in like, how is everybody thinking of me? I must conform to, but I think if your relationship is something that is strong enough and is core to your life, the respect that you show that and that you show your spouse by, to Nava's point, at times setting that boundary, I think is really important.
And I think just the fact of being married in itself, and this is another thing in terms of how society influences relationships, with the move away from marriage as a thing, it's easier to be like, oh, you just have a gut breakup with your girlfriend. Yeah, because I'm bored, like that vibe. But when you're married, like it's an institution that people don't want to break up. Like it's a big deal to get divorced.
Yeah.
You have to pay a lot of legal fees. Like at the very least, it's that.
What did the guy say on it's a big industry?
It's a big industry.
It's a big industry.
So I think that's a big protection of being married. But in the early stages of your relationship, especially, at least in our relationship, I found that those jealousy conversations and that kind of thing played a bigger role, especially because our relationship, we weren't like showing it to the world until we got engaged. So some people didn't know. So we had to be super intentional for the two of us.
So I think it's interesting. So we've kind of gone down this in tackling how to deal with jealousy. We've sort of, at least from my perspective, I think I've gone the other way of like how to not make your partner jealous almost to a certain extent, which is like I think that's maybe the core way to tackle it.
I agree.
Is that if you're not putting yourselves in positions where your partner feels the need to be jealous, you're not going to have that. I guess maybe briefly, and maybe to sort of wrap this up, do we have any thoughts on once you are feeling jealous, right? Because that's something that can happen at any stage. It's happened to me, as we said at the start, it's happened to me before it's happened to you. What are some of the ways that we can help with that, like deal with that? Okay, maybe it's happened. Maybe we know that our partner's like this, but we're still feeling this way. Do you have any sort of thoughts on how do we actually deal with that emotion itself?
I don't know. I feel like it's just having a conversation. It's what we said before, not making it a consistent nitpicky thing, but having that open and honest conversation that maybe will take a few hours, but it's worth it to just get to the core of it. Maybe you just need a hug. Maybe you need to just figure out what your way out of it is, what the ways to not keep this feeling going are. But yeah.
Oh, and I think with that as well, I think there's also a point, and you mentioned it when you spoke about like Kiana's a good egg. And I think there's the element of just underlying trust that you kind of need to have in a relationship. Like we heard it in the TMC in the wild, that trust and loyalty is obviously a core part of a relationship. And at some way, you also, like something that's helped is like, well, I know maybe I'm feeling a bit weird about this, but you know the intention hopefully of your partner. And if your partner is somebody that you can sort of bring yourself up and go, no, like this is something that I trust them in this, and bringing in those positive feelings, I think could help. I know that might not always be the answer, but I also think there's that balance maybe at the first level of, is this something that's worth discussing, and do I just have that trust? And then maybe if it's, I'm still feeling a little bit funky about it, that you then go into that conversation.
Yeah. And I think it's something that you work on, and also like make a good choice in partner. Like just don't choose a dodgy person. It's hard. You don't necessarily know at the beginning, but I think that also someone who's willing to, at the very least, willing to learn and grow and adapt. Very good. So that was our question time. Please send in more questions. We'll tell you how to at the end of the episode, but you can just comment it right now. Any question that pops into your head.
And Spotify allows commenting too. So
Yeah, YouTube, Spotify,
and again, season 2, it's revamped. You want to be involved in this, surely.
Come
Look at
on.
how nice
Of
the studio
course it
is.
is. It's
Look
so
at how amazing Nava looks.
Look at how amazing Kian looks.
That was so much
I got
better.
the compliment in. Yay. Okay, so that is our episode. Can you believe it? First episode of season 2. Done and dusted.
So thank you so much for listening to our first episode of season 2. You can now you could always find us on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. But now you can, as we said, you can also find us on YouTube. So go subscribe to the YouTube channel, watch the video on repeat, keep it going in the background.
For the next 2 weeks before the next episode comes out.
We want every single person to watch this episode, maybe 4 or 5 times.
I was going to say 10.
Maybe, I'll
Maybe
go
a
easy.
million even.
Maybe 7. Let's cut it in the middle. And also, given that, again, this is new season, if you're enjoying this, please share it with others. It's the best way for this to grow. We know that we're big in Germany. So if you're a German that's listening to this right now, share
Guten Tag.
it. Guten Tag.
And as we said, question time is our favorite time. So please ask us questions. Send in your tips and experiences and let us know what you want to hear on the podcast. And you can give us a cheeky DM or you can click the link in our bio for an anonymous form. And as we said, you can comment as well.
And now on YouTube, you can leave a 5. We should have already left a 5-star on Spotify from last season. But if you're new, 5-star for this season. And now we have a YouTube channel.
Like, comment, share, subscribe.
Like, peace, subscribe. All of that. That'd be so useful for us. And we really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode all about relationship norms and how love is changing in today's world and how to deal with jealousy. We hope you enjoyed it and we can't wait to see you next time for episode 2, which is, we're giving you a spoiler and a sneak peek, all about does online dating work? We can't wait to bring it to you. Thank you so much for listening. Lots of love from Nava
and Kian.
Bye.
See you next time.